Welcome to our greatest American art form.
The mixtape.
Now, for all of you kids who don't know,
Traditionally, a mixtape is a homemade compilation of media from multiple sources, recorded into a medium like a CD, a VHS, or cassette tape.
what we are presenting to you here is something we call Mixtape Therapy,
A collection of authentic conversations,
often wacky conversations,
inspired by what inspires us.
except instead of a cassette tape, we are bringing you a podcast
So just as you might share a mixtape, we share these conversations with you.
in the hopes that they spark a similar connection to the good old mixtape.
And
Now,
join us for a little mixtape
for some Mixtape Therapy.
And what's the point of faking it if we got no love to show? I wonder if we're gonna make it. I wonder if we're gonna heal. I wonder if you're gonna save it. Until you ask how I feel.
And the song I brought today, or the media I brought today, is this song called Hey, I'm Trying. It's by a girl named Peyton Medina. You can find her on Spotify, but you can also find her on my own personal podcast because I interviewed her and she plays a couple of songs. It's really cool.
No way!
And she's a real cool artist. So I chose one of her songs today to use, and the song is called Hey, I'm Trying. And the overall theme, or what I got away from the song, or what I pulled from the song, was those moments in between people and in relationships where you know something's wrong, and we're not really talking about the big elephant in the room. You know what I mean? And so we're tippy-toeing around it, like, constantly. Is that person going to say something? Should I say something? What should we do? How should we communicate this? And then, in the song, the chorus goes, I wonder if we're going to make it. And for me personally, in those moments where communication was really off or horrible, or we weren't having it, and we're trying to make progress, but it's not happening for whatever reason, and you walk away from those events, like, I would always go, man, like, are we going to make it? Is this going to work? Am I supposed to be doing this? Am I supposed to be here? Is this a relationship I'm supposed to be in? Like, and you just bombard yourself with all those thoughts, and even probably like ruminate on like why is this like kind of not working? And I would guess in those moments when you feel that way and there's that tension, the reason why it's not working is because there's no solid communication.
Yeah.
Right? Because the awareness and the bringing stuff to the surface and opening up and talking about it is what brings comfort. It's what brings stability. It's what brings the solid part to your relationship. And that ambiguous part where you're not talking about things and you're not communicating that stuff, you go, yeah, like, I'm trying, but like, I don't know if we will make it. Like, what is this? Like, what are we doing? And like, that just feels like a cycle that you just run and run and run, and it never really ends until the lack of communication breaks, which ultimately sometimes is like an argument, a fight. It never feels like, to me, at least in an unsuccessful relationship, that when that communication is broken, that there's an actual positive conversation that comes out of that will push down the feelings of like, yeah, I'm trying, or I wonder if we'll make it, to make it more solid, So that was my initial kind of vibe from the song. So leaping off that, I would like to ask Hannah, one, have you ever kind of felt that way in that ambiguous part? And then two, how do you coach your therapy clients to fix that communication break, or to get it started, or, to make that kind of happen, to move in a positive direction?
Oh, yeah. So first of all, can validate what I took away from the song is exactly what you're describing. It's like, oh, this is a great song about a total communication breakdown, even to the point, and apologies, Peyton, if I'm, bastardizing your lyrics here, but there was a point of, she's not saying this exactly, but you have to ask me how I'm feeling, or I feel like this isn't working unless you ask me how I'm feeling, but I finish with I'm fine. So or it's fine, I'm fine, right? This, even when given the opportunity to really speak what's going on with her emotionally, the answer is it's fine, or I'm fine. And classic, by the way, no shade to right. I don't know if this is based on Peyton's life or not. It's a beautiful song. Also gorgeous voice, really amazing. Yes, I mean, the part where this gets to me is, from my personal experience, I often know exactly what's not working for me, but the saying of it is so terrifying that I don't. And especially when I was younger, right? And especially before I had the tools to communicate, or I had the confidence to communicate. It's still something I really struggle with, because there is a deep, deep fear that if I communicate how I'm feeling, I will be left, rejected, maybe ridiculed. I have all kinds of deep, deep fears about saying the truth and then somehow not being accepted for speaking the truth. And then the alternative becomes, I'm never going to say how I feel. I want you to guess how I feel, but you're not going to be able to do that. And then this is just going to slowly crumble away until my resentment has built to a point where I can't be in this relationship anymore. So that would be my dirty laundry spin on very much relating to this. And I do know, though, from my experience with working with a lot of couples, that some people actually don't know what's wrong, or they don't know how they're feeling. I think more people than not do know what they're feeling, and it is the communicating or the saying of it that feels so daunting and so difficult, and will inevitably lead to conflict. This is another thought I have, right? I think there's a lot of pop psychology. It's just be honest, just say the truth. It's gonna, the implication being it's super, once you do it, it's gonna go really well. And can I just say, it's probably not gonna go well. It's probably gonna go badly. Badly being it's gonna lead to conflict. It's gonna lead to someone getting their feelings hurt, or yelling, or icing you out, right? There's a reason why we're not honest, and it's because it often comes with a lot of fallout. Of course, there is the hard of conflict, or there's the hard of simmering in lack of communication and slowly growing apart. Scottie, we were just talking about this. Right? It's the relationship's either going to be hard because there's conflict, or it's going to be hard because no one's saying how they really feel, and so there's no safety, there's no real connection. And both are hard. I operate under the assumption that relationships are really hard, specifically romantic relationships. Now, I know there might be people out there who find relationships easy, to which I say cheers, really, truly good for you. I don't know those people. Maybe they're out there. One of my biggest red flags, actually, is when couples come to me and something is off, but they say, we never fight. We it's what? And I don't know if you've heard me say this before, Scottie, but I always reference, right? When people say we don't fight, it's Donald Trump talking about his relationship with Melania. And he says, we have a great relationship. We never fight. And I'm that can't be a good thing. Now, not that I advocate knock them down, drag them out fights and yelling and screaming and throwing things, but certainly that's a problem as well. But conflict is completely inevitable when two people are living together or are so important to each other. Like, conflict is going to come up. So if you're not engaging in the actual conflict itself, maybe you're married for 40 years and someone has an affair and it comes out of left field and you're like, well, but we never fought. It's like, well, maybe that's part of it. So I think for me, as a person, as a therapist, I truly think the hardest thing is to communicate the truth, because it's deeply scary. Now, you might be listening to this and thinking, if I communicated the truth, it would be really mean. Or if I communicated the truth, it would be, or maybe it's, I do tell the truth. But then the question becomes, what truth are you sharing? I have to give an example, right? Like, you might think the truth is, I can't fucking stand you, and I oftentimes wish I were with someone else. Okay. True, maybe, right? Like that those are probably true thoughts and feelings that you have. And that is the layer of fighting, conflict that feels very charged. But beneath that, there's usually a deeper truth. Now, if you truly can't fucking stand the person and you don't want to be with them, I think maybe you should leave. But usually there's something beneath that, right? Something more vulnerable, something that feels really scary to communicate. And that is typically, when people come into couples therapy, what they are not communicating that I'm desperately trying to get them to communicate, which is, okay, I hear your anger. I hear that you're getting into your like big puffed up grandiose self and saying like, fuck you, you're ugly, and or whatever it is. That would be like, some intense conflict, which we do see. But beneath your puffing up and you're getting angry and you're pointing up the fingers, there's usually something much more vulnerable and tender. Something like, I feel like I'm not enough for you. I'm terrified you're going to leave me. I feel like if I were to be my true self, you would reject me. When you talk to me that way, it makes me feel like you have no respect for me and you never will. These things that a lot of us aren't actually aware of, because so many of us stay in the angry conflict. But that is the deeper truth that we have to learn to communicate, and it's hard. I don't know if that made any sense.
No, it made great sense. Why do you think when given the opportunity to voice your opinion, we tend to go, it's fine?
I think there's a real lack of faith in
trust.
There's like a lack of trust. Maybe in the other person, but I think more importantly,
there's a lack of trust in yourself.
In yourself.
And the other person.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's to make kind of a generalization. If someone says it's fine, to which it is clearly not fine, the part that feels the most powerful is you have learned somewhere along your life, probably very early, that your feelings are not valuable, that your feelings maybe are incorrect, that you can't trust your feelings, and that other people don't really care about them. And so rather than risk, honestly, the rejection of expressing a feeling that someone's not going to take seriously or is going to ridicule you for or is going to argue against, rather than risk that, which is very risky on an emotional level, it's easier to just disengage.
But what's so crazy, Hannah, correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that when I ask somebody about something and they go, I'm fine, it's not disengaging, it's actually engaging more. It's like, now, like, I know like something's wrong and they're just saying I'm fine. So now I'm even more engaged because I got it feels like a power play. It feels like a control play, right?
Mm-hmm.
To maybe protect yourself.
Yes.
But this is the opportunity that you've been looking for. You've been looking for someone to give you the opportunity to say the things you want to say, and you just say, I'm fine. That's crazy.
Yes. 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 Okay. And as someone who
I've done it too, by the way. I've said I'm fine. I'm not above that, right? Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think it's both. I think it is what I said, right? It's a total, I think that's maybe but I think the truest thing is I don't feel like you actually care, or that people in general care about my feelings. And so I'm not even going to go there. And then I think, yeah, above that, or what is more at the surface or more accessible is I'm going to say I'm fine when it's clear I'm not. And that's going to make you feel like shit. It is a power play. It often is. And this is a common push-pull dynamic between couples where there's one person who kind of withholds their feelings. There's another person who then chases after that person to try to get them to share their feelings. And it creates this unvirtuous cycle. I'm remembering a relationship I had when I was younger where I would typically use I'm fine in a weaponized manner, because in saying I'm fine, what it really does is it left my partner at the time alone with his distress. And I'm over here being like, whatever, right? Which is kind of I don't want to say cruel, but it's like, it does leave that person alone with actually no tools to improve things.
Well, my next question for you was, because I'll answer it too. In the past, why do you think you've said, I'm fine? Why do you think you've done that to other people? What were you doing in that moment, you think?
I think what I thought at the surface, again, is this person is not equipped to deal with my truth. Right? Which is, again, was true to my feelings at the time. What's interesting about that is it's actually a very disdainful way of viewing the partner. It's like, you can't handle how I really feel. Layer one. Beneath that, for me personally, it was, no one has ever cared about my true feelings. I don't feel like I've ever been safe to truly express myself. And so what's the point?
I think in my moments, I've said I'm fine because the behavior of the other person was non-changing. It was an event that happened like over and over and over again, or something that like I probably maybe voiced or didn't voice before. If I didn't, that'd be one thing, but maybe voiced and then like I was ignored again. And so I'm like, it's the same shit. So like, what do you want me to say this time? I'm fine. I mean, like, I guess this is how I'm going to roll with this. You know what I mean?
Resignation.
Yeah. And, I feel like I don't do it anymore. When I say I'm fine, I am fine. Like I mean, and most of my words now are like that. Whatever the words I say, I do mean those words. And when I do kind of is there a term for like when you say I'm fine, but you're not? Is that called something besides passive aggressiveness? Is there something other term for it?
Well, I think it depends how you say it, right? I mean, you could truly be pretending to be fine.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, in the moments where I use words passive aggressively,
yeah,
I have become aware enough of my behavior to almost realize it in the moment and apologize to that person. Go like, I shouldn't have. I was being kind of snarky with you right there. I'm sorry. And I do with my daughter a lot, like, because kids can be frustrating, right? And so like to be like, daddy, 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 daddy. Mm-hmm. And you're just kind of like, what? You know what I mean? Or like, or I think I've actually even done to her, maybe like, it's fine. Like she'll be like daddy, come in, it's fine. And she picks up on it.
Yeah.
Even at 4 years old.
You see my cat.
Cat's trying to get in the shot. Even at no, it's fine. Even at 4 years old, she picks up on the tone of my voice being different than it normally is,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so that's made me really, it's made me super aware that this person in my life that does absolutely nothing to me, like, because she's not an adult with a bunch of, the world hasn't beaten her down to be passive aggressive and all that stuff. Everything with her is genuine and true for the most part, and then I act with her poorly and she doesn't understand. I'm like, God dang, like that is the old mouths of babes.
Mm.
It's happening in real time with a person that hasn't been treated passive aggressively so much that they don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But we get treated passive aggressively so much. When someone says, I'm fine, we know exactly what's going on in that moment because we've been treated passive aggressively before. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it just goes to the pattern of what we do, and then the pattern of the people that receive it and how normal that is inside of relationships and communication to be covert. I mean, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. I also thought of another interpretation of I'm fine. Really depends on the situation, right? Which is I'm actually trying to project, I'm not being passive aggressive. I'm actually trying to project the image that I'm fine. And
When you're not fine,
when you're not fine, but you're pretending to be okay. And that comes from a place, or at least in my experience, that comes from a place of wanting to be perceived as fine, cool, tough,
strong, right?
thank you,
Yeah.
strong, right? And you can't, you're not hurting me. I'm cool. I'm like breezy, effortlessly doing fine. Right? Because, and if you're saying that, it's because, yeah, the other person has hurt you, but it doesn't feel safe to be vulnerable with them.
I said that I try to like be on my words. My words are exactly what I mean. So if I say I'm fine, right? And I have my days where like I probably say I'm fine and I'm not fine, or whatever. But ultimately, how do I word this? Hang on. For me to say I'm fine and not be fine feels gross now. Like it feels disingenuous to me, and it feels like I'm carrying extra weight, and it feels like I'm not being true to myself. I'm not being true to that other person. And it feels more genuine to go, like if someone goes like, hey, how are you? Or is everything okay? To go, well, like everything's not great, but my life overall is good. This is just a small blimp part. I'm having a bad day. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed this thing, like, we as humans, we commiserate with each other. So like, you're like, oh, like, hey, Hannah, how was your day? You're like, oh, it sucked. And I'm like, oh, my day sucked too. And we kind of do that thing together, And I've noticed that, when people tell me their day sucked, like as a human, I want to like help and solve their problems. I'm also a male, so I want to solve problems all over the place, blah, blah, whatever. But then I noticed that when I tell people about my bad parts of my day or something I had bad, they want to solve my problem. And I've been in this mode where I'm kind of like, hey, I don't need you to solve my problem. I was just kind of trying to relate. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I was just trying to connect. Like I don't like it. Nothing's wrong. Like even though I'm telling you about this problem, I don't need a solution to it. And this is a new event to happen for me. And it's made me really evaluate when I talk to other people that maybe they don't want their solution solved either. Maybe it's not as a big deal as there.
No one does.
Now maybe some people are making it a big deal because they want it to be a show, or they want you to say I'm sorry, or they want attention or whatever. They're making a big deal on purpose. But maybe in the feeling of making it a big deal, that's just how they are, and they don't want me to fix or solve anything. And this has been like a new phenomenon for me to see that in myself and then try to apply that to other people.
Yes.
Because being fine can be fine, but not fantastic.
Yeah.
You can be fine and not super. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that maybe because of the statement "I'm fine," maybe we read a little bit too much into it. these days. Like maybe, it's happened to us so much. It's kind of like when somebody texts you okay, and based on the relationship that you have with them, you hear how they say okay in their mind. And if they're a person that says okay passive aggressively, you're like, what are you doing, motherfucker? Why are you texting me like that? And the person could just be saying they're okay. They could just be like, I'm okay. Like, just because you hear it passive aggressively because their normal behavior doesn't mean in that moment when they're texting you, they're not okay.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, and this is like, I mean, that's a whole other beautiful rabbit hole.
Yeah, sure. We don't have to go down that. But the point
no,
is,
I think it's a good one, right? I think it's a good practice to take people at their word until they tell you otherwise.
I mean, unfortunately, I take everyone at their word until they tell me otherwise, because I don't really like, except for my daughter, like, you know what I mean? Like, cause like she just doesn't know how to communicate everything. But like, if my girlfriend says she's okay, like I just go on with my life. Like I don't even like hang out to see if it's passive aggressive or not. I'm just like out. I'm just like, okay.
Is that a new practice though?
Yeah, but like,
yeah.
But in my humble opinion, what it's done is that if someone says they're okay or fine and they're not okay or fine, they probably want to talk. They probably want to tell you something. They probably want to communicate it. And they're saying that for you to maybe again go like, hey, what's, like to ask like, what's going on, blah, blah, whatever. But we've really already established that you want to tell me something by not telling me, right?
Yes.
And so, in knowing that,
yes.
I trust that feeling of that you want to tell me something, but like, you want me to ask, and I'm not gonna, I don't know how to ask the secret question to get the secret answer. So you're gonna have to come to me and say, hey, there's something I want to say. And guess what? People have started doing that. When I don't engage into passive aggressive behavior, I reckon, like, if someone goes, I'm okay, I'll maybe say I'll know something's wrong with my girlfriend. I'll go, you okay? And she'll go, yeah. And I'll go, all right, well, if you need anything from me, if anything comes up, just let me know. Like, I'm here as your teammate to help you.
Yeah, that's a nicer way of putting it rather than like, cool, see you later.
Yeah, and then I just go about my day. But I don't stop noticing, by the way, because a lot of communication comes through our body language and how we act. So then we'll say it goes on, and we'll say she's not okay. We'll say we've already established that like the okay was a lie and that she's really not okay. Then what I try to do is give her enough grace and space to sort through what's ever going on with her, whether it's including me or not including me, and give her the comfort to maybe come to me and tell me. You know what I mean? And not going, oh, like, okay, so say it's still so confusing. We'll say she's okay.
Yeah.
I know she's not okay, but I don't do any follow up, right? I don't go like, hey, you said you're okay, you're not okay. Or like, I don't keep coming back to the well. But I know she wants to tell me something, right?
Yes.
I can't be on this other side saying like, when she finally comes to tell me, like, I'm just going to be like, I don't care. Or I'm going to be, like, I'm going to be like, you should have told me the first time. And why are you lying to me? And I'm not going to do all that stuff. I'm going to be grateful that she took the time to come tell me at her own time when she wanted to. I got the information I wanted. We now have better communication. But I have to give her grace and space to come to that. And I think we've already touched on that today in talking about it. Like that the communication comes with the flow of allowing it to happen where it's supposed to happen and not forcing it.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. Agree. And if I can reiterate
yes,
what you just said, because I think that's really important. So you get the I'm fine, right? And usually if you're saying passive aggressive, I'm fine. I would agree, Scottie, that what you are longing for is someone to press it further to show you, no, I'm really interested. I really care about you, right? As a passive aggressive, I'm finer in recovery. I would agree that like what I'm longing for is for someone to really care. But that's not a good way to get that response. Because if you say I'm fine passive aggressively, I feel like there's only a few options from your partner. It's either, all right, okay, well, right, which doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
See you later. Or it's, what? Tell me. Right?
Angrily,
And so,
like,
angrily, or maybe it's really anxious. What? What is it? And based on either of those responses, it's not really providing the warm, safe environment that you are deep down craving, right? With genuine care with your feelings. So you're lobbing a ball of I'm fine, secretly, not so secretly, hoping for warmth, understanding, and care. But you're most likely not going to get that in response. So like, throw the ball that you want to get back, you know? And that's hard. It's easier said than done. And unless you're a narcissist that gets genuine joy out of working people up and dysregulating them, I shouldn't just say narcissist, right? I get the narcissistic traits within all of us that might actually just enjoy getting someone worked up because I'm not okay, so I need you to not be okay. It's not cool with me that you're not okay. It's not just reserved for people with personality disorders, because we've all got a little of that. But Scottie, you're right that the best thing your partner could do in that moment, probably, I think, is, okay, well, I'm going to take you at your word. I'm going to keep myself regulated, and I'm going to invite you at your leisure to tell me what's up. But in the meantime, I'm not going to get up all in your face, or I'm not going to get angry with you, because that's just going to spiral this out of control, which I would say is more of the default until you learn good communication.
well, you tell me if this has been your experience, Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I've gone to somebody and I've asked them what's wrong and they've told me I'm fine, 100% they weren't ready to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Ooh, that's a good way of putting it. Okay.
Right. And so if you're out there and you're with your spouse or a friend or something like that and something's wrong, you go up to them and you go, hey, Bob, how's it going? And, or, what's up? And they go, I'm fine. You just need to go ahead and note in yourself, in your head right there, Bob does not want to talk about whatever he's on his mind right now. He definitely doesn't want to, because if he did, he would say it right then. When you asked him, hey, Bob, what's going on? He'd be like, you know what? This is going on. But he didn't. He goes, I'm fine. And in that moment, he's not ready. But he wants to talk about something. So you need to prepare the space for him to talk, right? So make it open. Because when someone goes, I'm fine, and you recognize they're not ready to talk about something, you telling them, you can tell me, or saying that like, okay, or whatever other passive aggressive thing you want to do back does not help, does not progress the situation, does not move it forward at all. What moves it forward is giving it a place to land, giving it a space to feel like that person can tell you something. Because if they're saying I'm fine, to your point, Hannah, they might not feel like they can talk to you.
Mm.
And so by giving space, you give them, maybe I can talk to them. And maybe if you have good enough communication and someone is like kind of aware and they're passive aggressively in the moment, and then you follow up and go, well, hey, but like I feel like something's wrong, especially if it's in a really close relationship, maybe they do tell you. But you know individually about your own partner. And that's not necessarily always the case with people that tend to be passive aggressively in one jump and then can recognize our behavior and then shut it down in the next jump. Usually it takes a little bit longer than that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So before we get out of here, Hannah, I want to know, how do you coach just fine, or I'm fine? How do you coach that passive aggressive shut off and people? Because I'm sure it happens like in the middle of sessions, right? Where someone's talking and someone goes like, "It's fine" or whatever. You know what I mean? So how do you handle that in a therapy session, or how do you coach that with your clients?
If it's a couples therapy session, I will ask them what's going on in their body at that point, right? Which seems like a cliche therapist thing, which it is, right? Where are you feeling that in your body?
No, but excellent.
Right? If someone says, I'm fine, I'd be like, okay, can you tell me what's going on inside your body right now? What are you feeling right now? And maybe they say, I don't know. Maybe they say, if they give me kind of like another short answer, I might say something along the lines of, I noticed when you said that, you sat back and crossed your arms. And that kind of gives them another opportunity to say, well, I mean, it's because this was annoying. Maybe, right? There are some clients that are really resisting. What I'm trying to do, and what I try to veer away from, although I think I make the mistake of doing this, is basically to signal with my words and behavior like bullshit, right? Which, depending on my relationship with the client, maybe I can get away with being like, but for someone who is genuinely not feeling safe, or like they can communicate, or like they even have access to what they're feeling, which is a lot of people who are really shut down. I kind of just probe with a little bit more curiosity, which I'm hoping is signaling to them, I really care about what's happening with you. I'm actually really curious about you. I'm curious about your experience. I would love to know more. And 9 times out of 10, that opens people up, because what I am hopefully providing or signaling is, I care and I'm listening. Which is, it's really hard for someone's partner to give them that, because they're also triggered to high heaven over here. So it's less of a, hey, you should do this and not say this, and you should say this instead, because that doesn't work to tell people what to do. It's, let's change the music of your emotional experience right now in order for you to soften and open and ideally signal that to your partner. But obviously it's hard and it takes a lot of practice.
Well, and we're back to communication, right?
Yeah.
Body, voice, the whole thing. How are you interacting and communicating with that other person?
Yeah.
And if you're met with resistance,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like this should be like common sense. If you're met resistance, resistance met with resistance doesn't always work out too well. You know what I mean? Force with force doesn't always work out too well. And especially if you care about this person, instead of meeting them with resistance or need like black and white or confirmation kind of things, or just pressure them to give you answers or whatever it is, just give them space.
Mm.
Like, I mean, time is like the most valuable thing we have, but it also has value in the sense of like what's happening inside of time. Like,
in empty space, or
the empty space of time. Like, so like there's the matter of giving someone 10 minutes, and then there's what happens inside of that 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And a lot of things can happen with just giving someone 5 minutes of space. I'm sure you see that in therapy like all the time, but we very seldom apply that to our partner or to our friends or what, I mean, you'd have to be kind of deaf, dumb, and blind to kind of not know how and when the people in your world get triggered. Like, I mean, you should kind of know how they are, especially if they're, a pretty constant flow. And so when you recognize that, instead of having your same old shitty behavior, especially if it's escalated in the past, why not just give them something else? And people sometimes are like, oh, like now you're giving that person a pass, act like an asshole. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm giving them an opportunity to act.
I'm giving an invitation.
I'm giving an invitation to act right is what I'm doing. Like, I'm not giving them a pass. I'm giving you an opportunity to do the right thing.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because me like coming down on them hard doesn't give them an opportunity to make a new decision. It just goes, your decision is wrong and you need to change it. But that doesn't necessarily change people. People change their mind when they change their mind, not when I tell them to change their mind. When I tell them to change their thoughts. So they have to experience it on their own. And sometimes that space gives the experience to go, wow, like I can say something and, or I do have the freedom to talk and it's not going to be shut down or, whatever else it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, man, I actually love today, Hannah. I before we got on, I was like, I'm kind of feel a little ill prepared, but we just ran right through this. This is awesome.
We get right into relationships, which we love to talk about.
Yeah, I know. We're good at this.
So hard and amazing and limitless room for conversation.
Well, if y'all guys have something that's mixtape therapy for you, make sure you let us know. Hannah, we'll see you next time.
We will.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Scottie.